Yeah. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Nas album, King's Disease 3. This is a brand new record from Nasty Nas, Escobar, who is currently on a creative streak with a series of albums produced by in-demand producers.
Right, I haven't heard him talking about the album yet, but I'm still gonna predict. Do I think he'll like it or not? And I can I not. I think he's gonna like it.
Producer Hit Boy. We had the Grammy Award-winning King's Disease 1, the even harder and more
Oh, I forgot it won the Grammy. That's crazy.
gratifying follow-up King's Disease 2, and now a third installment where it looks like Nas is messing around even less, as we have 16 tracks on this thing, not a single feature in sight, which, if anybody is going to carry an album who is still active in hip-hop today, it's going to be Nas, of course. But still, raw-dogging a record like this is kind of going against the grain, especially as it's always presumed that artists who are of Nas's generation kind of need that young blood on a record in order to generate interest and get people listening to it. Cute.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think. I don't like it whenever OGs, or what do you call it, legacy rappers or whatever, bring in a random auto-tuned mumble rapper. I hate it.
21 Savage's recent comments about how Nas isn't really relevant. He just has a very loyal fan base. But no matter what your opinion is on Nas's current level of popularity, Nas isn't really relevant. He just has a very loyal fan base. But no matter what your opinion is on Nas's current level of popularity, it's clear.
How old is 21 Savage? Right, hold on. Let's look. Right, bear with me. Because if he's at a certain age, then he probably didn't like a flipping old album to him, like a fucking one of the first rappers ever, like, albums ever made was probably like the Carter 3 or something to him, depending on what age he is. No, not Nas. 21 Savage. 33 years old, and he is saying that Nas isn't relevant. That's crazy to me.
He doesn't give a fuck. He just has him and Hit Boy on this record doing their own thing, and that's it. Energy-wise on this thing, Nas continues to sound revitalized, just as he has on the two previous KD records. However, it feels like at this point he's got a lot of the nostalgia stuff out of the way this time around. On the track Reminisce, he even says, and I don't like to reminisce because what we're doing right now is really lit. And not that it was a bad thing when he did on previous KD albums. It was great getting Nas's perspective as a veteran of the game on things new, on things old. We even still get bits of that here on...
So does Fantano like Nas? Like, does he generally like Nas? This is actually the first Fantano review for Nas I've seen. I'll have to check them out.
Tracks like First Time, for example.
Sounds like he likes Nas.
Where Nas goes back into the past and touches down on a lot of things, but especially what the feeling was like the first time listening to Nas's music. So yeah, while that element of Nas's thought process in these KD records has not gone away entirely, it's still cool to hear him at a point where he is living a bit more in the present because his consistency is so good at this point that he can just kind of be. There's the opener, Get a Reporter, where Hit Boy brings some very classic bumping drums and piano chops. The track is a very hype and glamorous introduction, and essentially Nas brings us a vibe check on his current self, reflecting on exploitation within the hip-hop industry, his recent output, his storytelling ability, and he even says KD3 goes harder than the previous two, and off of...
And you know, it does. KD3 is the best out of the three, 100%.
The opener, I suppose so far he is correct. And this track is one of many on this record that really kind of feels like a...
It might even be in my top 5 Nas albums, you know?
victory lap for Nas. Nothing too focused or specific, really just a celebration of how well he's doing creatively and personally. I'm on Fire is pretty much the same thing, but different vibe, different flow, different instrumental, just as good. There's also Legit, which is a track of transition, where Nas cleverly reflects on going legit from street life to music, with lots of witty bars highlighting the contrast between the two. Hit Boy kills it with another beat on the song Thun. We have very light drums on this track, some weepy synth leads, some random chops from the classic ESG.
Wonder is he going to talk about the track Michael and Quincy?
Song UFO, the whole instrumental honestly sounds like some underground MF Doom type shit. But the slang on this track
He will, won't he? Because he's going in order.
and the way Nas describes some of the imagery, it gives the song an amazing sense of place, as it's essentially a tribute to his stomping grounds. And the impact Queens is even left on his senses, as he describes still being able to like hear the subway wheels on the tracks. By comparison, the lyrical focus on Michael and Quincy isn't quite as strong, but it's still a banger. Pretty much a great show of the chemistry between Nas and Hit Boy, even left on his senses, as he describes still being able to like hear the subway wheels on the tracks. By comparison, the lyrical focus on Michael and Quincy isn't quite as strong, but it's still a banger. Pretty much a great show of the chemistry
I like the lyrics on it.
between Nas and Hit Boy. I don't know if I would go as far as to make the Michael and Quincy comparison as he does in the lyrics, but the hypnotic loops and flows that are brought to the table on this one are some of the best on the record. On 30, Nas flexes his consistency and success over the years, which is all happening
30's a great song too. They're all great.
Over this huge, big, lumbering trap beat, something that sounds like it would be on a Rick Ross record in the early 2010s. It's not bad, but far from my favorite cut on the record, as I don't think this kind of instrumental sees Nas playing
It's actually
to
one of my
his
favorites on the
strengths.
record.
Still, he does have enough versatility to kind of get through it unscathed. With the song Hood to Hood, the glossy and nostalgic synthesizers set a soundtrack for a song where Nas hopes for, shoots for, a lot of unity from neighborhood to neighborhood, which is encouraging to see from an artist who
He likes this album. Fantano rates albums out of 5, doesn't he? And not Fantano is really strict. He's really hard pleased. So I'm going to say a 3.5 out of 5. He's going to say, and that's good for him, I think. But I think that's what he's going to say, 3.5.
came from an era where beef
Although I do think he should rate it a 4. To me, it's perfect. Near enough. Near perfect. It is perfect. Um, but I think he's going to say 3.5.
was really intense, and the various spots in which hip-hop thrived were kind of segmented geographically, and they each had their own kind of flavor and vibe, and sometimes that was cause for friction. We also have the gritty recession proof on this LP, which it's funny that Nas mentions Superfly at the start of the track, because the instrumental sounds like it's straight out of a blaxploitation film. Meanwhile, on the lyrical end, Nas essentially lends to the listener some advice to invest in yourself, think of your future, don't move sloppily in a way that endangers yourself. The sense of paranoia, but also hope for the future, is real. And don't let the title Serious Interlude fool you, as this is one of the more seriously focused tracks on the record. Kind of a slick cut about a dicey relationship that Nas was in at one point, where he was young and he was the side guy. The hard grooves, but also very lovey-dovey keys play really well into the scandalous nature of the story he's telling here. And believe me, he tells it really well. Once a Man, Twice a Child is a profound reflection on aging, being in your youth, being in your prime, and then your twilight years, putting you back in a position of vulnerability as if you were in your youth again. And not only is it one of the most well-spoken tracks on the entire record, it hits especially hard from a guy who's in an industry where, once you've hit 30, you're essentially old as dirt, which records like this pretty much prove that is very much not the case. With Get Light, we have some tasteful jazz rap with some dance grooves and some cool sax licks. Not one of my favorite tracks on the record lyrically, but even a so-so Nas song on this LP is pretty great, much better than most of what you're going to find out there. And meanwhile, Beef is a really smart concept song where Nas is rapping from the standpoint of beef itself, as if it were a sentient thing, which I think is maybe the smartest way you could go about it. Now, with that being said, loved the vast majority of what is on this LP. Maybe not super thematic, maybe not the most
3.5. That's what he's going to say.
consistent flow from track to track to track. It feels, kind of like a potpourri of various cuts and expressions, ideas, all still really well done and consistently performed and written, though. It's cohesive enough to the point where it works as an entire record. But still, there are some tracks here that I was not super crazy about. Reminisce, that I mentioned earlier, I think has a good enough start, but the attempt at, kind of a lovey-dovey topical switch on the back end,
I like all the songs on King's Disease 3.
along with like this
I got YouTube Music, right? And I thought it cancelled out, like, it got rid of the ads. Turns out there's two different types. There's like YouTube Premium and there's YouTube Music. Still got odds.
Choose to cruise. Cruz Campo, Sevilla.
At B&Q, get more done for less, with prices nailed on hundreds of DIY essentials.
Buttery drill beat, I don't think quite worked. There's also Dovey topical switch on the back end, along with like this buttery drill beat, I don't think quite worked. There's also WTF SMH, which even though there are elements of this track that I like, I feel like the like spelled out LMFAO chorus on the song is kind of a non-starter, and for Nas to be rapping these unironically, it just comes off really awkward. And there's also Don't Shoot, which I think is kind of a weak attempt at a closer. It does start off strong enough with Nas lyrically embracing a
I don't know, actually. You might give it a 3.
Pacificity, but then eventually we go into this beat switch that kills a lot of the momentum of the song, whatever it had up until that point. Though I do see the point he is ultimately trying to make here, with going into the idea, the concept of King's disease, and that being something that kind of leads to these violent moments and ways that you can kind of inoculate yourself to it. So again, see the point, see the message. I know what he's getting at. I just feel like structurally it could have been woven together in a much more clean fashion. And I don't know, considering it is the final track of the third record in this trilogy, and some great things do tend to come in threes, I wonder if this is going to be the final King's Disease album. I would hope that if this is the final song and the final record in this series, like they would kind of go all out, but they didn't really, in my opinion. I mean, at this,
I wonder, will he ever do a sequel to another album? Like, will he ever do a sequel to It Was Written, or like Street's Disciple? If he was to, what album would you like to see him do a sequel to? I would like, I don't know. Street's Disciple too, probably.
point, there could be a KD4. I would not poo-poo it. Nas and Hit Boy really do have something special going for themselves. Like, I would love to hear them collaborate again, even if it were just on, like, a different title series or concept or whatever. Because creatively, they do seem to gel so well, which, was the case on the two previous KDs. This KD, which has some of the best tracks in the series on it so far, and a very consistent track list. And pretty much everything that was great about the last two records is also great about this one. But with the exemption of features, it's maybe just a little bit more no bullshit. And I love it. It was great. Really good listen. I'm feeling a decent 8 on this one.
Oh, he does it out of 10s, right? I forgot about that. I thought he'd done 5s for some. Damn. That 8 is the equivalent of a 3.5 out of 5, alright? That's, yeah.
Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it?